So in a lot of ways, this gospel for today seems displaced. It seems so unusual to be here in the waning days of November, or the waning days of lectionary year B, for those of you that follow the church calendar exclusively. That's a very small crowd. Jenny is waving her hand back there. A crowd of one. Maybe two. I go there. But it just seems so unusual that we would have this passage from John's Gospel here toward the end of November, toward the end of our lectionary year cycle, as we begin to prepare for Advent, as we begin to prepare for a new year in the church. It seems weird to hear this story that's usually told around Holy Week and Easter. It seems weird to hear a story about Jesus, the prisoner. Jesus, the prisoner, in the presence of Pilate, the governor. It just seems weird. Now, we know what happens in the rest of this story. We know that Jesus ends up on a hill outside of Jerusalem on a cross. It just seems weird that this conversation takes place in the governor's parlor. The Roman Empire's representative for the people of Palestine. The person who wielded all the power, all the might, all the responsibility. And it seems weird that they're having a conversation about being a king and about the nature of truth. But in the church world, today is a day when we remember and honor Christ as King. Today is Christ the King Sunday. It's the end of our lectionary cycle. It's the time of year when we begin to think about this notion of what does it mean for Jesus to be King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So I think it's really appropriate that there's a little bit of weirdness there, because we don't know quite what to do with the power and the glory that is Christ the King. So it actually makes a lot of sense to put a juxtaposition in front of us, to put things that seemingly are not like one another right here in front of us. Jesus stands in front of the governor, the representative of political power, in the midst of revolution and turmoil and violence. Does this sound familiar? Jesus stands before the governor and is asked a very important question: are you a king? And he responds, "My kingdom is not of this world." My kingdom is not of this world. It's not about political power as you know it. It's not about might and strength. It's not about governors and empires. It's about truth. A kingdom of truth. Now, in first century worlds, truth was understood as that which is being revealed, that which is being made whole, that which is being shown forth in all the world. So when Jesus says that his kingdom is a kingdom of truth, that he comes to testify to the truth, he in effect says, I am what's real in the world. That the power and might that I show is different, but it is the truth. It is the reality It is what we are all about. You see, in Pilate's world, kingdom meant power and strength shown through whatever force, whatever way of taking control necessary. In Jesus' world, it meant submission and obedience. It meant love and compassion. It meant mercy and grace. It was all the things that we understood about power and might turned upside down. So the reality that Jesus proclaims, the truth that he witnesses to, is that God's kingdom, the kingdom that you and I are all a part of, is about grace and hope and love. That the power that Christ wields in our lives is not the power of the sword or of political persuasion or of empire, but the power of mercy, but the power of salvation, but the power of reconciliation. You and I are called to be a part of this kingdom. We are called to be loyal subjects of the truth. That which is revealed earlier in John's gospel that said, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. We are agents of this kingdom, and we are called to live in a world full of love and generosity and compassion. And that is so hard to do when the rest of the world sees power in other ways. It is so hard to do when violence, political persuasion, and oppression are rampant in the world that we're a part of. But yet, we are called to testify to the truth, to speak grace, hope, love, and peace, to proclaim it loudly as the truth that it is, to speak God's kingdom into existence. You and I are called to be loyal subjects of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And this kingdom is not of this earth. Oh, don't we know it? But when we pay attention to the grace and mercy that we have been shown, we can show grace and mercy to the rest of the world. When we pay attention to the healing, reconciliation, and change that happens in our own lives, we can take healing and change and transformation into the world and live as Christ's reconcilers, agents of the kingdom of God, believers in the truth, people who are God's people. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Amen.